of prayer. Lord, we are grateful for this day. We're thankful for the many blessings you give us and this time that we're allowed to meet, Lord. We thank you for the service of those that work to serve and to try to make our county better and make things better for the people of Swain County. So God, we ask in this meeting tonight that you guide us, that you direct us, and that you help us to think and help us to be able to come up with solutions and things that would be beneficial and helpful to people that we serve, Lord. Again, we thank you for this time and ask you to bless it as we're here. These things we ask in your name. Amen.
Amen. We will now call the Swain County Board of Commissioners work session for May 27th, 2021 to order.
Face the colors. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any new business or anything, agenda change that needs to be looked at? Okay, let's get down and get to moving. Under section 2, items for discussion. The first is the presentation of the 21-22 budget. 2021-2022 budget.
So y'all have my budget message, should have had it on your desk earlier. So at this point, we went through a lot of different meetings in the last several months. At this point, as a budget officer, it's my job to just present a balanced budget, which you have in front of you. And then if you want to go through the process, you can put it out for public display for 10 days. You can still have the opportunity to change it, but kind of my job is complete. Now I've handed it to you. And that's what this budget message signifies. If you'd like me to read it in its entirety, I can. And this is all by General Statute 159.11. So,
Minister, would you like to hear the letter that he sent to us written into the record? Yeah, go ahead and read it.
Okay. In accordance with North Carolina General Statute 159.11, the proposed budget of Swain County for the next fiscal year is hereby presented for your review and consideration. The normal and accepted presentation of the budget to the Board of Commissioners includes only the budget ordinance. This proposed budget sets forth a plan of operation for all county departments, programs, and projects for the coming year. This proposed budget is balanced in accordance with state law, and revenues and expenditure totaling $19,488,575.60. This proposal is presented without prejudice or favoritism toward any person, department, or organization. We have endeavored to be as objective in our approach as possible. We have tried to keep the interest of the taxpayer in mind at all times during this process. Literally hundreds of hours have been put forth into requests, reviews, and the recommendations of this proposed budget. As Swain County strives to be a leader, and it is our responsibility to promote progressive government sensitive to the needs of the citizens, it is our intent that this proposed budget reflects that commitment to our citizens. The budget process is never simple or easy. It takes time, effort, and the necessary ability to make hard choices and sometimes unpopular recommendations. This year has been very challenging due to the octennial revaluation process. We strive to include all necessary expenditures without the need to increase the tax rate. This, along with adding additional programs and increased staffing for multiple departments, has been difficult. The Personnel Committee had several meetings with the emphasis being on how to retain qualified employees. The committee recommended to the board a step plan for the 2021-22 fiscal year. This plan was created using other plans that the county used as templates for the starting salaries for new employees and benchmarks for veteran employees. Over the years of working with the Personnel Committee, the step plan has always been at the forefront of the conversation. Most governmental organizations in the state and country have similar plans for employee compensation. In addition to the step plan, the committee recommended a COLA for employees that did not receive an increase within the salary plan. The step plan is included in the 2021-22 fiscal year budget. Respectfully submitted, Kevin S. King, County Manager, Budget Officer.
Just one,
Go ahead.
you might want to change. Roger is the chair, the vice chair.
Sorry. I was probably taking it back up because I had condensed this one from last
That's
year.
not, you might want to change that on there.
Sorry about that.
I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
The, next to the last sentence at the bottom.
Yep.
Are there people, and where are the people that may not have received an increase within the salary plan under the COLA? What is that?
Okay,
What does that happen?
so for instance, if they have, I don't know, if they've come in and somehow they've gotten up here, either through previous boards in the last 20-something years, or, so they're higher in their plan, meaning they're maybe way up here, but they probably only should be here. You see what I'm saying? And so for those people, they're not getting anything within the plan itself. So they would just get the $500 COLA this year. Then once the plan is fully implemented, depending on if y'all decide on a COLA next year, or if you don't, they would just go by the plan. So they may get something next year and they may not.
And why would somebody be in that position? I mean,
Well, a lot of
what's
times,
an
so like,
example of that?
I don't know, several years ago, we had a start of a salary plan, so you got through 2 steps of it, and then it was cut off. And so the third one may not have got went as high. So it may have skewed the numbers. They may be way up there based on how many years they've been here, you know, what COLA adjustments there was, because there's been several years back and not in recent years, but back that they would give 3% and 5% raises. So it's kind of skewed some numbers based on the plan. And we didn't move the scale 5%. We only moved at CPI, or Consumer Price Index, of 1.6. You see what I'm saying? So it would skew the numbers and they would jump up more. Or maybe it just hired him, you know, back a long time ago, it was just kind of, we based it on years of service coming in. We may have a qualified employee and they say, well, I'm not coming for less than this. And if we went to the board at that time and said that, they may have just given it to them. So it was all really, I'm gonna say haphazard, the way it was done. No, this basically puts everybody, it's a guideline for what they get. That's what it is.
How do you determine which employees those are? I mean, do you have
Which employees did that, has that?
yeah,
Or-
that jumped, or how do you determine they're in the wrong level, or they shouldn't be receiving that? I don't quite understand.
Well, no, they're receiving it. They're already receiving it. I'm trying to think of an example. Say EMA. I think some of the deputies are in the same situation because their salaries are higher. Like if they, for instance, I think a deputy salary is at 64. Okay. Well, the starting pay for a deputy, just starting, is 36 right now. Right. And so all those deputies are going to be higher. So they're not going to get anything except the $500 already. But now a new deputy coming in is going to be in like 6 months is going to be at 32. But then they're going to see out here that they're going to get at 3 years this, at 5 years this, at 10 years this. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, okay, I see now. I wasn't
So
sure
some of them
if it
are
was just specific ones, how you determine it.
no. There's actually quite a few, like DSS employees, for instance, the $5,000 that we did for the CPS workers. Well, they're higher than their starting salary. So their starting salary, I can't remember, I think it's 68. So it's 35,901. We're already paying 41. So they're not going to get a raise technically until for 5. They won't even get it in 5 years. It'll be 10 years before they get anything extra. You see what I'm saying? So it's all depending on when they came and what circumstances, and what policy we were going by then, at that particular time, I guess. Because policies have changed throughout the years.
The sentence says,
Yep.
they recommend a COLA for employees that did not receive an increase. The people
Within the salary plan. Let's see.
because the salary at which they came in is higher.
Correct. Correct. So like the deputy, for instance, going back to that number, the 64 at that grade, if they're making above, and they make right at 36,000, but that's if you've been here 15 years on this scale. So they wouldn't, if they've only been here 5 years and they're making 36,000, well then they're not going to, the only thing they're going to get is a cost of living adjustment of 500. They're not going to go up because they can't go up anymore because they're already there. That was just and at the committee, that's kind of what they were talking about. Well, then at least somebody would get something. They would get something.
But those employees all understand that they're not gonna, because we've implemented a step plan, they're not immediately gonna go up in salaries.
Correct. And if y'all want to look at that COLA thing, that's fine too. I mean, if you want to take the COLA out and just do the step plan. But some people, probably about 50% or 60% of the employees won't get anything
Without the COLA.
without the COLA. Yeah.
But they don't necessarily, that's the whole purpose of the step plan to begin with, is it not? That they don't have to have COLA every year.
Right.
So it's not something, that would just be
Yeah.
you deciding to give them because they didn't get nothing. You're still gonna give them something this year. And then it might come up again next time, but pretty much I've been looking at this a lot the last few days and talking to Kevin some. And what's the difference in this and the longevity plan that we already have? Necessarily, I mean, because to me, we should just be adding their longevity to their salary instead of doing the bonus check. If we implement this, we need to get rid of the longevity, because that's what this does. This does the longevity. This gives them raises that they can see on paper, which they could see the other if we showed it to them instead of the bonus check, because some people are already at way up pretty high. They're not all. I'm not saying all of them, but there is some people that's been here for several years that's getting a longevity check. So that's part of my issue of this whole thing. There is nobody getting hired on making the same as somebody who's been here 15 years, if you count longevity.
Yeah.
If you don't count longevity, then you can say that, which the longevity is as a bonus check.
It's just it was put in, longevity as an exact copy, except for the 1,500 that we've added over the last 3 or 4 years, exact copy of the state personnel plan. And a lot of counties in North Carolina have adopted it. The majority of them actually have a longevity, and it's basically, hey, you've been here, you've been doing a good job, here's a bonus for the year because you've been here and you've done that. This is more of an enticement to say, okay, well, this is my salary, this is what's going to be in such amount of years, and it's on paper, and that's I know what you're saying, I understand, but it's more of the benefit piece. It's just another enticement. So,
Which that's one reason why they want a step plan, is for more enticement, to keep more people and everything, correct? So it's still basically,
correct.
It's another benefit.
When
It's a
we-
guaranteed
excuse me,
thing.
when we give a bonus or any kind of an increase, when the board does it, what does that do to your plan?
You mean like a cost of living adjustment?
A COLA is fine. I
Yeah.
mean, the Christmas bonus, let's say.
It doesn't do anything to it.
That don't
But it does
produce a
something.
salary adjustment, is what you're saying.
Yeah,
COLA
because-
is the only thing that would raise this up. So if you gave, next year $100, whatever, the whole scale would move up $100 on each category.
Okay, here's my question, hearing that. At which point we move that scale up, can we get a renewed copy of the scale itself, of what we did, so that we can take a look at it and see it?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, this includes the last 4 years of $500. This scale does already.
Okay, all right, okay, no problem. I'm trying to understand it so that we can help staff understand it, if they're having problems with it. And I would assume other staff besides the deputies are having problems with this. But if we're trying to keep people here, we have to be able to show them. But I think, Kenneth, you were the one saying that sometimes they argue with you that that was not a salary increase.
Yeah, the longevity is not a salary increase. The COLA is a salary increase, and we've added over the last 4 years, we've increased the salaries across the board $500. And some of the discrepancies come about from where they used to increase the salaries before we changed the COLA to even pay for every employee. It used to be by 1.5% of your salary. So the higher end salaries that was some of the discrepancies that left some back. But yeah, there's the bonuses, the longevity bonuses are not included as salary. They do not, the ones we already have, we've implemented even more than what was. In fact, when we started, I believe there was 10, 15, 20, 25 years, correct, Mr. King?
On the longevity?
Yes, sir. And then we added 5 years.
And 3 years.
Then we added 3 years
Yeah.
to longevity pay.
Okay.
It don't show, but even with the sheriff's deputies and stuff, something else that won't show in this plan is overtime pay. Is that correct?
Correct. This is the base salary only.
Okay. So if someone asks for a salary, what am I trying to say? A salary outline for the county?
Mm-hmm.
It just shows the base pay. It doesn't show the bonuses and that kind of stuff.
Correct.
So-
Which is incentives, basically.
Okay, so I'm personally, I should have been sitting in on these meetings you had with Kenneth, because I don't see how, if we, the county, pays the money out,
Mm-hmm.
we've got to show it somewhere. Where do we show it?
Well, it's part of the budget total. It's like within these departments. I mean, it's in the salary line item. Like your longevity is in the salary line item, so we definitely show it. And they definitely show it on their W-2 when, we pay it out to somebody. So from the salary point of view, yeah, but and we, on their salary sheets, it says, so each year, at the beginning of the year, we have a salary sheet, and we sign off on each one of them, and it gives the grade, and it gives the salary, the base salary, and then it gives the year, how long they've been here, okay? So with that one form, based on the policy, which you've got the longevity policy, and you have, the salary on this schedule, for instance, you can determine exactly how much they make, except for overtime, which we wouldn't know. We'd have to go back and calculate all that. But you'll know longevity, you'll know the salary, but add those two together and you got it. And that's pretty much what we do. And that's all in open. I mean, people have asked for copies of our personnel policy, and it's all in there.
I'm not sure, and maybe I'm the only one sitting around this table, but I'm not sure tax purposes or other purposes, how much our employees are making. And that concerns me that I don't know that. Maybe, like I say, maybe I just need to sit down with you and you can lay it out for me.
Okay.
But, because we have a budget of salary at a specific amount, the longevity may be a part of that, but how do we back it out so that we can know what it is and who has that longevity? And if we have been doing this, which sounds great to me, don't get me wrong, how are we continuing to hear that we are, and the word is not correct, but that we are underpaying our employees compared to surrounding counties? I haven't figured out yet how we as a board are paying our employees if we're trying to figure out ways to keep them on staff. I'm having a problem with that. I think we ought to be paying them appropriately as to what we get our income. But ever since I've been here and we've had this personnel committee, that's been the issue. Yeah. And so I'm simply saying there's something that I'm missing somewhere and I'd like to know what that is.
Okay. So this plan is nothing new. This particular plan has been around since 1993, and it is has been approved by the board pretty much every year during the process. And you have to have a plan. I mean, there has to be grades, there has to be a minimum, midpoint, and maximum. So in 2000 was the first time, and I know I'm repeating myself on this, but in 2000 we started on a 4-year plan to implement this. And we did we did 10 steps, and we were implementing like 3 steps per year, or no, it would be like two steps per year, and 3 steps per year, and then 4 the last year. And when we got into it, it went over different commissioner boards at the time, and got to the 4th year and stopped. Okay, so a lot of those older folks that had been here in the system moved in this scale way up here. And with COLA increases and all things like that, they may have jumped on up even a little bit more. And so that's how we've done it. But we've always had these, and the people that are here have always been in these grades. If they choose, for instance, to say, okay, well, I think my job deserves to be a higher grade. Well, then they fill out a form. This packet, actually it's not a form, it's a packet of information. They fill out all that packet of information, and we send it to a third-party qualifier, and it's through Maximus Corporation. And basically, we pay them to do that. They send back and say, okay, well, no, this job still probably needs to be at this level, or no, this probably needs to jump up one more. Their responsibilities are more comparable with all the rest of the 100 counties. This is more comparable to this particular grade. They don't look at the amount of salary. All they're looking at is grades, because everybody has to submit. Each year we have to submit this to the state, as documentation. So it's on file. And so then we just go back, and the scale moves based on what y'all allow. If you give a cost of living adjustment, that's what's happened. Is this scale outdated? Probably, because we've not did a salary study. The last salary study was done was in 1993. We've had updates. This is where, like in Jackson County, for instance, they did a salary plan revision or a study, and their salaries went up about 20 or 30% based on the market condition for the specific employees. But at all times, we've had this plan. So going back to your question about how or why, I guess how we pay individuals. Basically, we come in and we say, okay, well, they're a processing assistant 4, and a processing assistant 4 on our scale is a 61. And so we go over 61, higher end this amount, At step number 2, in 6 months, you go to that amount, and that's it. There's no mechanism to get you on up anywhere else. That's all you get to look forward to, is right there. Unless you do a cost of living adjustment, and then the scale moves, okay? So what this is gonna do, if y'all decide to do it, will be, okay, this process is the 4, comes in, and higher end, good, 6 months, good. And then, even if you don't move the scale at all, even if you don't do a cost of living adjustment at all, in years 3, 5, 10, they're gonna say, okay, well, if I stay here this long, I might could get this. And I know you're looking at, people don't look at it from, if you get a 1.5% COLA, so 1.5% of, on a process system 1, it would be like, what, $300, $400. So it's not much of an enticement to stay, you know, that longevity. But if you're looking at the same thing, it's okay, 26,912, well, in 5 years, I'll be at 29. That's $3,000, and that's every year. And then your longevity on top of it at 5 years is going to be 1,000. So there's 30,000. So now you're at 30,942 for a person that is a process system 4. So that would be the rationale, and then it's documented every time in a paper, on a 1-sheet paper, what you're going to get. And then if you go by the policy, the longevity, very simple to follow. You take that number, multiply it out, you're good to go. Because everybody's year is going to change every year. And then the good thing about it is, as you get to the top of the scale, you know, when these people have been here a long time, when you hire somebody new, you've got a new starting point. So it's not going to gain as much as you think it is. It's just a more of an equitable giving out. So like, you know, even the lowest one, which I think we have a 54, like even the custodians now, most custodians are at 21. Well, guess what? They can be at 29 by the time that they have 30 years in. You know, so it gives them an incentive to look at it. So that's why I think that's the whole reason that the committee, you know, we talked about it. So, and it, like I say, it has. I think everybody's been a part of that same conversation going on. And you know, my recommendation would be to implement. If y'all want to take it out, that's fine.
That's not what I'm arguing.
Oh, I know.
Or debating, let's not say arguing, let's say debating. If we did another, what'd you call it, a salary eval, and what I'm thinking now and comparing it to in my mind is if the federal government were to be raising the basic salary to $15 an hour, we would have to adjust our scale if they pass that.
100%.
Yeah. So where are we from the last time we did that? As far, and I'm going to use the term, as far as fairness to our employees, has the scale been locked in back here and we've not moved it, or has it moved with the COLAs and other things?
It has moved with the COLAs.
Okay, so the COLAs become very efficient and effective.
Correct.
Okay.
But if you did a $500 increase, I know it's not, because you're moving the whole scale 500.
Right.
So it's not, it's collapsing the scale. It's doing this. If you were to move the whole scale like 1% or 1.6, it would move linearly. But as long as you pick a number like 500, this was the rationale why it's not maybe as good doing the 500, because all it's doing is this. It's making your scale shorter instead of keeping it like it was to begin with, linearly. See what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand that. With everyone saying that they need a raise, my question, I guess, is if we did a salary eval every 10 years, would we be more in line with some of the other counties, or does that not affect I mean, as
And,
far-
and
as
I've
far as
always
the-
looked at it in this manner. If you did a salary eval right now and had a company come in and do it, you're gonna spend about $35,000 to $40,000 to have that done, that process, that study.
Sure,
More than likely, it will increase all of these positions up to where it's probably not gonna be affordable anyway.
yeah.
That's what.
But it would give us.
You see what I'm saying?
It would give us yes, it would give us
A baseline.
baseline,
Yeah.
yes. And then
Yeah,
we
and
could-
I agree with you. I agree with
We
you.
could adjust it how we needed to adjust it for our income.
Correct, correct.
Could you go on though, and you know a county that's done that, and look at their sheet and get that baseline anyway without having to do that? If they're all posted.
I'm
you-
sure I can get one,
Should
I
be
mean,
public record, isn't it?
yeah, oh yeah.
So
Yeah, Macon and Jackson both have done one.
if they've done one, it'd be good to just get one and compare to that and see how far off we are. And
Yeah,
save us
and-
35,000 having somebody come in and tell us that, because if they do them for them, it would be the same, wouldn't it?
Right.
I mean,
Well, but I think we understand, I think most of us understand that we're behind in that.
yeah,
As
it'd be
far
good
as-
at least to see where we're at and where we stand with it.
Yeah,
Whether, and then you'd say, well, could we do it, or you'd look at it and you'd know for sure you couldn't, or you could, or,
well, and you know
Whatever,
that you
but-
could or you couldn't, or you could still raise your base or reduce your base. I have to say that, but raising the base to be more equitable.
Yeah.
And maybe that's what, see, I'm still trying to figure out why, how to reward those who have stayed. And those who want it just because they want it and the next county over is making more, that does not give me any sympathy, and I'm wondering why. So,
Mr. Chairman, could I jump in here a minute?
sure, you may, yeah.
I've served on the Personnel Committee. I don't know if this is the recommendation of the Personnel Committee. They're happy with this. This is what they want. It does reward them staying on because they keep going. The years of service, they keep going. So we have a salary, we have the COLA that increases the salary, and then we have the longevity and the Christmas bonus, for example. That's just a bonus on top of the salaries. So some years we can afford more of a Christmas bonus than others, and we've had different bonuses since we've been on the board. So it's what the county can afford for those Christmas bonuses. That's a little, you can say that's how much I made a year, but it's not necessarily part of my salary. It's what it is. A salary is what you make a year, but you understand there's a difference between salary and bonuses. So we've got two avenues of bonuses, am I correct? And then we have salary. Salary's increased by COLA.
But
So they're happy. I don't know if are we getting the idea that this is something we're putting on them that they want this. Everybody on the Personnel Committee that I served on that with this time, I didn't hear anybody object to this at all. At all. They were tickled. And if we could implement that, they were tickled about it, Mr. Chairman.
Now, I will tell you that, this year was uncharacteristic, I guess. As far as the committee, usually we have like 5 or 6 maybe. We had 17, one from every single department, not just a piece of, and we had a combination of I think there was 2 supervisors, but the rest of them were just frontline employees. And that's the resounding what was said from the frontline employees. So,
and that's been what's been asked for ever since we started those committees, is a step plan back initiated and get them back on where they can have something to look forward to.
yeah.
That step plan, Mr. Chairman, is the reward for staying along with the longevity check, bonus, and a Christmas bonus when we can afford to do so. But you can't really count that as part of a salary because those aren't, that Christmas bonus isn't a guarantee. So it's hard to count that as part of that. But they were happy with it. I started getting the sense that maybe we were saying they weren't happy with it. I didn't hear anybody unhappy with it on that committee, and it was large.
the longevity is implemented as a bonus as of now. It doesn't have to be. It never did have to be. It should be part of the salary, I feel like. That's my opinion. It's a guaranteed thing. It's not if we can afford longevity or not. It's been there. Even before, when I was told before, there was no longevity, but we did have longevity. It was just later on, and we adjusted it down to 3 years. Those are rewards to me, as much a reward as this. And not only the longevity, if we'd implemented it on their salary 4 years ago, if we'd implemented it on their salary, lots of the people would be making more money now, would they not? Because it would have went by their salary every time they got their bonus on their salary, the 3 years, or whenever we implemented the 5 years. Then the 10 years, it's the bonus, the $1,000 raise, and a percentage, correct? So if we put it on their salary, it'd been a percentage of their salary, that would have bumped it up a little more. And then the COLA on top. To me, it's a step plan. To me, the longevity could be put as a step plan, and they could see it basically the same.
I think just it's, since we're kind of an arm of the state, throughout the years we've adopted typical state policies because we administer state programs. And if you look at the state salary schedule, it's going to look similar to this. And they also have a longevity plan that looks similar to ours. Actually, it's the exact except for the 1,000 and 500 that y'all put in a couple years ago, or last year, 2 years ago, I guess. So it's identical. It's the identical state policy on longevity, plus they have a step plan. And I think that we've always had to do that because we administer state programs. We've always had to have this, as like a checks and balance type of thing, since we were created by the state. So, and the similar thing with school system employees. If you have a certain amount of years, you're going to get certain longevity payment. Even I think school teachers get longevity payment. So, in addition to their salary, which is not, if you look online, it's not going to say you get a longevity. It's a benefit. It's something separate, but it's in their stuff. But I don't think that they let people know that they're getting a longevity. I'm not sure. I don't know how that works, but
It's not, at this point, it's not an issue to debate here. I'm just trying to understand it and tell my colleague that, yes, they're still complaining about it. They just may not have been on the personnel committee, but there's other things that I have heard, and why I'm trying to understand it so I can explain it. But I think that the other thing that brought to my mind was that I don't know how recent the state has upgraded that, or if it's needed to be upgraded. If it doesn't need to be upgraded, then, hey, say it doesn't need to be upgraded and we'll move on. But for salaries, I recognize the income side of this, but for salaries, my question was, are we, with the state, are we fairly with the state as far as our starting salaries for employees? And if we're not, is there any way to look at that, or is it just because of the income that we can't do it? And I understand that as well, as I keep saying, so that was the point of all of this for me.
and I think going on Danny's suggestion, we can get those salary plans from other counties. At this point, since we're a consolidated agency with our human services, the state doesn't, we have to provide them a copy, but they don't approve a copy.
Okay.
So it's a little bit different since we've been consolidated. So other counties, they get this private company, which is going to be a Maximus or another actuarial, is what they call them. They will go in and do a study based on all 100 counties normally counties of similar populations, similar economics, that sort of thing. And then they do a salary study, and they will tell us, you know, a processing assistant 4 is this grade. And their starting salary with this set of parameters is this, and their ending is this. And they'll give us the midpoint and maximum. All salary plans are gonna just be midpoint and maximum.
Right.
This was just a mechanism for us to make that equitable, because at maximum you should be, you know, 30 years or 28 or whatever. And then midpoint, you should be around 10 to 15, and beginning, of course, is when you hired on. So that's,
Right, and again, I have no problems with that. That question was simply, have some of the other counties that have a lot of money, have they upgraded, and to what have they upgraded, and based on what did they upgrade?
yeah. It's a private company that comes in and does the salary study, and I can get that information. Rutherford County went through it last year, and I think we've got that information. I
Graham
think we did
County
that.
went through it not long ago, I'm pretty sure.
Was it Graham County that did it too?
I think they did a few years ago. When did they get their county manager that they have now?
She went on probably 3 years ago, I guess.
I believe they done a study within that time.
And we can definitely look at, you know, we can do it ourselves. We can compare other around us.
And this is, I realize we're on live radio, but this is not really information for the employees. It's for us to take a look at it and see if we want to do anything with it. That's all I want, is to be able to look at it and see. And if we can do anything with it, let's do it. If we can't, that's fine too.
Okay.
We'll continue to deal with this as we do.
Mr. Bushyhead,
Yes, sir.
would it be, I know in your earlier statements, part of it was you didn't know exactly what our employees were making and stuff. Can we get a sheet of, and updated, because I know some of my other material, the grade numbers were not up,
Talking about the sheriff.
weren't recent.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, because I've got different, I think I had a few sheets that they had different grades. Yeah, so than what the recent grades were.
Yeah.
If we could get, maybe look at that, might help. Then you could see, and then you could look at it and see what discrepancies you might see with where certain salaries are at the, then you can look at this and say, well, yes, this person's been here this many years and they're here.
Right, well, I think as commissioners, we need to be aware of everything that's going on. And it's hard to do that, believe me, I know. It's hard to do that, but we can know if the step plan that we have, based on the numbers that we have, is good and accurate and adequate. And if it is, I have no debate, I have no argument. I'm just trying to figure out how we know everything that's going on. And this just seemed to be a good time to talk about that, so.
Which the only debate that I have about it is if you implement this, I don't see the necessity. I believe this takes the place of longevity and everything, and that's my opinion and my view only, but that was my debate with it is, and COLA and stuff is not, we've done lots of things. In fact, we've done lots of things in the last 4 years to address salaries. And whether it was getting rid of the overtime one, really, I mean, the overtime, if it's not shown on this sheet, there could be a big discrepancy in what somebody's actually making
Oh, there is.
with
Okay,
overtime. I mean, we went through this before, even with our paramedics. We had paramedics that with overtime had $65,000 a year salary.
Right.
There's There's a whole lot more to it than just,
Right.
yes, let's do this, but that's my debate.
And I think if we can have this debate among ourselves with all the information that we need to do it, I think it'll resolve everything. I mean, you know, then we can answer questions and why we're, I was trying to think of my personal health and was out walking and got stopped and asked about this, so. But anyway, okay, let's move on to something.
Okay. So I presented this to you.
And we received it.
Okay. And do you want, and I don't know how exactly to do this, we can put this, you know, salary thing in a contingency line item, meaning you might want to implement it, but maybe not as of July 1st. Maybe we want to, I don't know, what's your pleasure?
I think.
Because now I've given you a balanced
Sure.
budget, so my job's kind of complete.
Sure, and I think that that's what we're looking at, and I think that we need to proceed. We have a job to do, and you have a job to do, and we have to proceed, and so we move on. We cannot develop anything new for this budget year, can't do it.
Okay.
I mean, that's my opinion.
So you want to keep as presented?
As presented, yes. Right.
Okay, and then I'll get the information and we'll have further meetings about it to develop
We'll
it
see if there
further.
needs to be any further meetings, once we gather the information, and if there is,
Okay.
we'll have them, if there isn't, we don't need to,
Okay,
okay? Does that make sense?
makes sense, yep.
Okay.
So, I guess my only other question about the budget is, so the next regular meeting is on the 10th of June, and then the following is 2 weeks later at a work session. If you want to call a special meeting and have a budget hearing at that point, or if you just want to have one on the 10th of June, that's fine too. Either one is within the 10 days notice, because we'll send it out in the paper, and it'll have 2 weeks in the paper before your meeting.
Well, I
So-
think we ought to go ahead and do what we need to do, and that's have the public meeting, and if there are any questions that come up,
Okay.
we'll have a time to take a look at them.
So the 10th of June, we'll have a public hearing, and then you'll vote on it at the regular session. Is that what I'm hearing? Okay.
I think I mean, that's where I am right now,
Okay.
and no one else has any objections, and we can move with that.
At the same time, I'll be giving you this, the next pages, which is the fee schedule, to go along with it. And then that's the second thing on our list there. Along with the food truck, we'll add that and kind of get best practice on how other people have done it, to get some verbiage in there for that. But we'll make it immediate. So if you've had a food truck at your establishment within 365 calendar days, you will get a charge. And it's gonna be, do y'all have a charge you think you wanna add to it? Would it be the same as a restaurant? Or would it just be maybe a $300 fee?
I think we just set a fee
Okay,
and go with it, because if you set a fee such as, you're gonna get all the arguments there are.
what do you think of $300? Would that be sufficient?
My whole issue with the food trucks is that where they're being put at, they're acting like restaurants. They're not.
Right.
I mean, they have tables, they have, the only difference, they don't have waitresses and waiters, I don't think. They're just going up and getting their food and going down and sitting. Or I know at a few venues, that's what I don't know. But two, I don't know how many places have food trucks come. But I know that there's a couple of establishments that has them come and they're like restaurants. And if one of them's a permanent one now,
Mount
it's
Lair's
definitely,
one's permanent. It's wired in and it's set on blocks. It doesn't move.
I mean, it's definitely like a restaurant.
Yeah.
So you wanna do $550?
To me.
$550? That's what a restaurant fee is.
I don't know if they produce the same amount of food, would they?
But man will trash.
Well, just if,
Yeah.
I mean, if they serve that amount of, produce that much
I
trash.
think it's just part-time, and generally they're only, some of them are only in the evening, some
In
of
the
them not even
evening.
serving lunch. I think the lower amount is a good amount to start
300.
with, and then we can kind of, see if they catch on and more of them start popping up. And right now, I think we're only dealing with a couple locations that have them, on a consistent basis. And it'd be hard to gauge the amount of trash. They do produce, because everything they put out is throwaway, basically. So they are producing quite a bit of trash, and that, I assume if you send it to the business and he wants to recover it from the food truck that he's having there, that's up to them. But I think that fee is pretty reasonable for a year. Now, I guess if they only had them once a month, they could argue the point, and I guess it could still be for debate if somebody wanted to come in
So,
and we'd listen, we'd have to listen to them and see. But right now, I'm seeing both the locations right now that have them, they're there on a very consistent basis.
so just for clarification, for instance, if this is a retail establishment, they're gonna get a fee of, let's see, of $350 for commercial uses. Plus, if they have a food truck at their establishment, they're gonna get an additional $300 fee.
Well, their argument would be, I guess, that they're already paying it for that. We might ought to think about this a little bit. I don't know how you
do it, but I don't think it's necessarily fair that the restaurants have to pay so much and other establishments having food trucks there are basically a restaurant.
Well, basically, if you did that analogy, if you had the $350 plus the $300, they're paying $650, but they've got two different revenue sources. They've got the food truck, which will be paying theirs, and then you have the retail, which will be paying theirs, theoretically. So it's not really overburdening one person. It's two businesses operating on the same location, right?
Well, we went through that scenario.
So
with the cubes.
that's what I'm saying. If there's a food truck you want to do, I mean, I guess it's,
Maybe we should wait and look at it when we have time to
I mean, you can
really
implement
take a
it for
better
next
look
year.
at it. Because even more people argue, well, you got snow cone places here, there, and yonder too. And
Yeah,
what does the place up Deep Creek at the Tube Center, what do they pay for where they fix some food and
I have no
just
idea,
a
like a snack
business?
bar. I have no idea.
do they have food that's actually food that the health inspector has to go inspect for?
mhm.
So, I mean, that would be about,
So, a place like that, do they pay as a restaurant, or they have?
I would have to check on that. I don't know.
maybe we
Wonder what
need
the
to do
tax
some checking
Yeah,
and,
maybe there's not a lot of instances of that. That's really the only one. But I guess you could come in, like when they have festivals and things, some of these people could have a complaint about, well, there's food trucks at those, are you gonna charge them? And I guess that's in their charge to set up. They kind of compensate there,
Yeah.
I suppose.
Plus, it's only 3 days.
It's
I mean,
only, yeah.
anything
it's
over
only-
3 days, they have to have a
I
permanent.
just think there ought to be something, and again, I think maybe we can discuss it more, but we ought to come up with some kind of figure to add on. I don't know if it's as equal to a restaurant or how. I think there ought to be some kind of a charge, because they are producing more trash than that business would ordinarily produce in any, in a given day.
Well, and I can hear the argument as well, as you said a moment ago. We don't fix hamburgers, so we don't have a mess out here. So do we treat them as well, the same as those who fix barbecue or hamburger or, whatever?
Yeah, it's maybe something we need to discuss a little more before we get into setting the fee in this one.
I'll see what other counties do around us.
See if they
If
do.
anything.
Yeah, it'd be good to know.
A lot of these food trucks too, I think that we do need and we probably need environmental help to come in, and I'd like to ask them questions about how are they monitoring the sanitation of these trucks, because if it's a permanent one, from my understanding, the food truck has to go back to its permanent site every night to go through cleaning. Because that's what I was thinking when you said that. Because normally a food truck, you have to go back to the permanent site you're at to clean, because they don't have necessarily sinks, and if they're not, then that should be inspected as a permanent structure.
That should be right.
I mean, they have to have the sinks, you gotta have the 3-compartment sink, you gotta have all the different stuff a restaurant would have. That's the way they get around it, because a lot of these food trucks that are coming in are not really permitted here, they're permitted in other counties, and they just drive here. But if that one's permanent, that's a whole different scenario.
Drive by sometime and look there behind Mountain Larry. It looks permanent to me.
Okay.
It's set up.
I'll
there's a
ask
meter,
environmental
they run a
health how
wire
they've
underground,
how
and
they've
it's
gotten
wired
involved in it.
They, somehow, there's a meter base there. They're actually, I wonder if that's just for the truck. It almost looks like it is, that it's metered to the truck. So there would
I'll
have
do some
been
calls.
some sort of permit given for them to have gotten electricity to it.
Yeah,
Through our
he could have,
department.
yeah, but they could have just said, well, I want a camper hookup,
Uh-huh.
you know.
But drive by and kind of take a look at that sometime, see what you think.
Where is this, Steve?
It's behind Mountain Larry Brewing on the little back street.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
okay, I know which one.
It's the gentleman's from Silva, that he's used to set up and rotate off and on. It's called the Rice Wagon. But I may be wrong, but I'm almost sure that it's set there permanently now, because it's set up on blocks and stuff. It's there, it doesn't move, it doesn't go anywhere. So, that's, like I say, that may be something we need to bring in the health
Okay.
department.
I'll do some
Sure,
comparisons
sure,
and
yeah.
this other stuff.
And do look, like I say, I could be wrong, maybe they've changed it, but it looked to me like it's a permanent setup.
Well, if a truck doesn't have wheels on it, it's not going anywhere, actually.
No, definitely.
Okay. Okay, county manager, I think we're already into your report.
So I'd mentioned the heater at the jail is being installed. I don't have a budget amendment for that. We did have some money available in the maintenance, but we'll have to replenish that before the end of the year. And hopefully we'll have both heaters. So there was 2 heaters. I don't know if I'll explain a little bit about it. These are, of course, not just traditional heaters, because they're $35,000 for the one. But we replaced one a couple years ago, and that was for the kitchen, which is at 160 degrees, and then you have the one down below that's for the inmates at 120 degrees, and you can't mix them because it's facilities versus a kitchen. So,
And they're gonna complain about scalding?
yeah, yeah. So anyway, this will be the last 2, the last one that we have to worry with. Out of that, though, we did get some good company that is giving us a price on the grinder pump. So, we've had the grinder pump issue for quite a while, and trying to find a company that would actually retrofit what we had. So now I think we found a company that's gonna quote it out, because that's what we've been waiting on. So there is kind of a light at the end of the tunnel on it. The pool project, I've been in pretty much constant communication, it seems like, with them on a daily basis. We keep getting some pitfalls thrown in front of us on it, but right now we're set up for the 7th to be pouring. So they'll be pouring on the 7th. And then later on that week, they'll be putting in the liner. And then our crew will be done with their processes as far as the building. So I think that we're still on task to go be by July 4th. We have had to hire the lifeguards, so we're working on getting at least 3 lifeguards. We're right now we're having a hard time finding them to be able to open July 4th, because a lot of them thought there wouldn't be a pool, so they've not got recertified. So we're still trying to work through all the processes, but we were having a problem. It was supposed to be poured this coming week on the 3rd, and I think that's what I sent y'all on a email. But unfortunately, it wasn't anything to do with our control or the pool company's control. We can't get concrete. Everybody's pouring because there's no, you know, they waited till there's no rain, so they're just pouring like crazy. So anyway, Southern Concrete could not get us any concrete. So, but hopefully we're still on task. So it had been kind of brought to our attention, Ben actually called me the other day about this issue. A member of the public had mentioned to him that, you know, we've changed the Inspiration Park to the Great Smoky Mountain Event Park and rebranded it. We've got 2 signs up there now that say that. And we'll have the pavilion. Well, a member of the public had mentioned to him if we shouldn't memorialize the fact that the Inspiration did use it for over 50 years as their primary location at first, singing in the mountains, singing in the Smokies, that sort of thing. And so there was a sign at the bottom which was taken down that said Inspiration Park. We did take that down when we put the other one up, and I think that was some of the issue that they wanted to at least have it somewhere there that it was Inspiration Park at one time. And Ben had made a suggestion we may want to put it up closer to the park and maybe point, you know, kind of where it was, which is not on, it was on the Coggins' property, not necessarily where ours is, but just wanted to get a consensus if that's all right to do. If we just put a sign up there formerly known as Inspirations Park. Is that, everybody all right with that? Okay.
I don't have an issue with that necessarily.
And that's
Some
good.
people are always gonna call it that.
Yeah.
Forever anyway.
Yeah.
This is still the federal building to most people.
Right.
It's true, yeah.
Okay.
Well,
I'll
To
get a
me,
sign.
too, by the way.
I might add, just FYI, in today's obits, there was a former Inspiration gentleman who died.
Oh.
So, and I can't tell you who it is because my mind doesn't go carry that much information. So.
Gotcha. And I'm going to just circle back around with a couple items that have been
Okay.
brought up before, but I just want to make sure we're all on the same page with it. One, a couple people had wanted a meeting with the town. The town wants us to get an agenda before they will consent to meet with us. They want a formal kind of like agenda as discussion points. So, and they would prefer it to be after the budget process, probably July or August is what they have indicated. So if y'all have any agenda items that you want me to put on an agenda, I think one, I think me and you had talked the other day about, you know, the fire marshal and the fire ordinance. And, you know, if we do animal control, if that proceeds through the budget and gets done, how is that going to work with the town and that sort of thing. So there's a couple items that we can add, but anything else you want to add, let us know. Definitely sewer, water, we can talk about that, but I guess we need to be more specific on what we're talking about, if it's adding an unsewered area or what. So anyway, just shoot me an email with that.
Mr. Chair, one thing I think we was talking about was the TDA stuff, wasn't it? Because they were wanting to, MOU?
The MOU with the town
Yeah.
regarding.
Yeah.
And
What-
we've got a skeletal MOU, which really says nothing, other than we're gonna have an MOU at this point, so. But specifics,
What is the purpose of the MOU? Say, is it to where they're not gonna go after the 2% or something if we didn't, which we voted to do that anyways?
so there's a lot of, you know,
If we allow that we spend so much, a certain percentage in Bryson City, because we've basically been spending a whole bunch of percentage the TDA has in Bryson City.
yeah,
That was the whole purpose of us trying to get other people involved in the TDA board to sort of spread out the usage of TDA monies where it wasn't specifically for just Bryson City. So I don't necessarily understand the reasoning that they want that.
I think, you know, the TDA had they gave you the copy of their, I guess it was a memo. And then they gave the copy to the town also, asking for the same thing. The town voted, I think it was 3-1 on Alderman vote, and then, y'all had voted to go along with it as well. And then we forwarded that to Representative Clampett, who was working on just the 2%. Out of that, it was between and it's really between the TDA and the town, not necessarily us. I mean, we're really just kind of a third party, because it's not technically coming out of our coffers, it's their coffers. But what I've had long discussions with them about is what constitutes the percentage of capital versus your 2/3 for your marketing. Like, for instance, right now, we take 1 cent for the 3 big projects that we have. We had the museum, we had the turntable and steam engine, and we have the event park. Those are the 3 big ones. And that includes the fly fishing campus over here. So 1%, 1 cent of the 4 cents goes to that. Well, that's 25%. Well, they can only spend 33% on capital, right? Then you have the chamber building, which they pay us $50,000 a year. You put that in play, well, there's another 5% of their total. So 5% plus that, so that's 30%. So now, really, the TDA only has 3% left, and that's on the way it is currently set up. So even the TDA, when they come and ask me, they say, well, we're going to spend, we got all this money in our fund balance. I said, no, you don't. All that's technically marketing money, or most of it is, because you're spending it. You're spending on this, and you know the LGC really heavily looks at that. You can't just haphazardly do it. When they get audited, it actually spells it out in there. So I think that there's a lot of misunderstanding as far as what you can and can't. After talking to the town, one of our discussions was, well, if they implemented, and one of the factors on why they would want to come with our TDA would be all of the money could be used toward a project, and none of it would have to be used toward marketing, right? Because if they implemented one and say they get $100,000, well, $67,000 of it's going to have to be for marketing, and $33,000 for capital, and that's not what they are after. They're after more for projects, and so with that said, the TDA, if they put in, or y'all put in the 2%, and we give it to our TDA, the MOU basically is going to say a certain portion of that 33% of the 2%, which is going to be, roughly, it would be it's on $500,000, would be roughly about $160,000. Okay, that $160,000 now could be allocated, some to the town, some to the county, and then the rest of it toward projects. Now, in 2022, when all of this is paid for with the county, there's going to be a bigger pot of capital money that can be used specifically for capital. But right now, most of it's tied up. So that's the rationale for the 2%, and why the town really would want to come in with the county. And I think that's the understanding that I think all of us have, is that it doesn't make sense for them to have a marketing arm and then the county to have a marketing arm, when at the end of the day, a tourist doesn't come to Swain County. They come to Bryson City, or they come to Nantahala, or they come to a community that's known. They don't come, oh, I'm just going to Swain County today. So as far as marketing goes, that's why the Swain TDA markets Bryson City, because tourists come to Bryson City. So, but that's the whole reason.
But did we bind ourselves for that or anything? We don't. It's the TDA has something with them, not us.
Well, it's all 3 of us together. I mean, y'all are the taxing authority. You basically said, yes, we will put in the 2%. I think it was just kind of an agreement that we're going to be working together toward this MOU. you know, an understanding of going forward. But at the end of the day, y'all can't give the town nothing. The TDA has to allocate that. The same thing, the TDA would have to allocate it to us, right? But it was an understanding based on the fact that y'all, the commissioners, were going to ask the state for authority for the 2%. And I think that's how you're involved, because you have to actually do it.
Which is gonna make the capital grow a little bit, and they could do other projects, and the town wants
Correct.
some benefit from that, and would.
Yeah, and at one point, you're gonna have, it's gonna go from 160,000 a year, based on last year's number of $1 million. It'll go from there to 500,000 a year for capital projects. That would be the capital fund,
It's big,
if you had the 2%.
if you have to, yeah, it's a big increase though.
Now, that's after we get all the projects paid for, all the stuff, so. But yeah, that can be a conversation, but I think they did vote for it, and it was approved,
It was all but one,
yeah.
I think we
Yeah.
approved it, according to paper.
But that would be a good, you know, item, along with other stuff too. But anything else y'all have, let me know. So a few days ago, when we did the budget amendment, last week at the special meeting, I assumed that everything would be going good with the middle school project. You know, it was $200,000, a little over $200,000 for the middle school project. Well, then a couple days later, the school came to me and said that they had a different idea, because that was a lot of money, $200,000 for that particular project. Because it's not necessarily a full remodel of the kitchen area, it's just replacing a bunch of pipes underneath the floor, which is not exactly what they'd told me. So they wanted to come back and talk about kind of redoing where the building is, tearing down that building and doing another project there. And so they wanted to see if that would be a possibility. And I told them that would definitely have to come to y'all for a meeting, discuss it. And I didn't know if the facilities crew, which is Danny and Kevin, wanted to meet specifically with the rest of the facility committee.
We haven't met in a while.
Right, to kind of go over some of that stuff, walk the campus. I gave them a couple good ideas about how to reuse some of that space that they have up there, and maybe move the cafeteria and the dining room and tear down that building, but reuse it within the current campus outlay. So we can look at that if that's what you want to do. If you want to have a specific meeting with the superintendent and have him come in here, either way is fine with me. But they do want to meet, and they are not gonna, they don't want us to award the bid. They said that that's a lot too much money for really what we're doing. And so I said, that's fine. You know, we'll continue planning as long as y'all are comfortable with the sanitary piece of it. So, and they are. So I was just gonna let you know that.
Now, does this new planning that we're talking about, does that include the pipes under the building replacing?
Correct, yes. Yeah, this would actually be an almost new facility, is what they're talking about, a new added facility, or maybe a remodel of some of the other pieces. But, so it'll be a bigger project, but at the end of the day, it's gonna be a lot better project than just wasting this money.
So their food serving area is that little, looks like a trailer sitting beside the road there? Oh, where's their cafeteria now?
No, they're still using their cafeteria.
Cafeteria, middle school.
It's a middle school.
Okay.
Yeah, they're still using the middle school cafeteria. And it's not, it only happens, there's some issue with some venting and some terracotta pipe that's underneath the building that they've had problems with. And they wanted to basically rip all that up. Well, that's what that $200,000 is for.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's a lot of money when you consider what actually you're getting out of it.
Right.
And so they wanted to look at it, kind of back up and look at it again, just to make sure that we wasn't wasting money.
but it's kind of time sensitive. Something's gotta move.
Yeah.
before the-
They
young
said that it
boy.
was better than it has been. That there's,
They can, they're able to use it, so.
yeah, they say they
I
can
was
use
under
it.
assumption it had to be done now, or.
Well, that's what they
couldn't
told us.
Open the door back up,
Yeah. So,
Okay.
but I did have a meeting with Tommy Deals and Mark Sale the other day. So I think but do you want us to meet with with the facilities meeting? Is that good with that? Or you want to have him come in here and talk about it?
I think probably better come in and everybody hear it from them.
Okay, that's fine.
And we can go and look at it,
That's fine.
but I think it'd be good to have them, everybody hear the same thing from them. Sometimes I have a hard time conveying all that. I'd rather everybody hear it from the source.
So, appointments. We put it in the paper since the last part of April. And it'll be in there 4 weeks. It'll be in there one more time, I believe. And, thus far, we've had 2 people that have been on the TDA, reapply for their positions, but just 2. So we're still 2 short on that one. And then, we've had 1 person, and it was for the vocational rehab, position, I believe, and that was Tim Cochran. We only have 3 total for every board we've got. So, don't know if you want us to rerun it, keep running it for a couple more weeks and put June the 15th on there, or if, hopefully by Tuesday we'll have somebody, but I don't suspect, because we're gonna be, tomorrow's our last day of office until June the 1st, so.
It would be my suggestion that we just run it that way. If they don't have anybody applying, can't get anybody applying, we've done what we can do to get people for those committees.
Okay, so you'll me to run it for 2 more weeks, and we'll cut it off on the 15th.
Yes.
And that's just the only place we have that is in the paper.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have it on the county, anything on the county website?
Yeah.
It's on there also?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
I've not heard any discussion, anybody ask about any committees, so.
We ever use the radio?
We have, yeah.
Have we used for this?
I don't think we have for this. Do you want me to
No, I
do
would
a
think
spot?
so. I would think
Okay.
a couple of spots, so.
All right, we can make it happen.
Maybe we can get Roy to apply for one of the
Maybe so.
spots.
Social workers. So, everybody is having a problem with staffing. We're gonna be down 4, which is not happening in a long, long time. And, we've been advertising for about 3 weeks now and got one, don't have 1 single application. So we're kind of and it's not really, well, we don't think it has anything to do with economics as far as salary. Because we are compared, because with that addition we did a couple years ago, we are comparable to the other counties around us. We don't think it has anything to do with that. I think that just the profession itself, it's just harder and harder to find people that want to go into that profession. So right now, anybody that's got a 4-year degree in any subject whatsoever, we could send them through the 72-hour training, and
You wanna talk to them?
yeah, we want to talk to them. So that's kind of where we're at, and
That's all the requirement,
you got to have 4-year degree.
4-year degree.
Yep. And we're trying to figure out if there's a methodology moving forward, if we could have like an associate's degree person, and maybe the county help them to obtain their 4-year degree. If they could do like a work against,
study, yeah.
they call it a work against, where you're not technically there, but you're almost there. And we're trying that route too. We're trying everything we can think of. Right now, we've got Vanguard, which costs the county a lot of money, but it's one of those you have to do it. There's no choice. We have no choice but to use Vanguard. And really, even they're not giving us a lot of people at all either. So the only other option besides that is to call in the state, and they send a crew up here, and that's not a good situation either. So anyway, it's very taxing right now on everybody over there. And Lottie told me earlier today she thought about getting a signing going out and on the street and saying, we need a social worker. Because she feels that because we're putting it everywhere. We're putting it on Indeed. We've got it everywhere. But it's not just us. I mean, the other counties are in the same boat. You see it in the paper each week. And Graham County is in dire straits also. Jackson, Macon, all of them.
Are the other counties requiring the masters, or can they?
No, all social workers in North Carolina have to have a 4-year degree.
At least a 4.
At least a 4-year degree.
And so, I guess I was wondering if you could talk to a couple of counties and see if they have anybody that, if they're going to have to go back to school anyway.
Yeah. I think that everybody's going to kind of have to be thinking outside the box, and they're going to have to get some state regulations changed, like the associate's degree folks. We're going to have to ask the state for a variance or something to try to get some local people more interested in doing human services work. I mean, it's going to take that. There's just no. But if you know anybody that wants a job, if we've got one, and if they want to learn how to do social work, so as long as they have a 4-year degree.
Are we still dealing with the Cherokee County stuff?
Yes. Those are they call them CVA cases, and I'm not sure what the acronym stands for, but basically it's a case from another county that the state has stepped in and taken over that county and given the cases out to all the other ones. And so, yeah, we've got, I think, 2 over there right now.
But the state's over in Cherokee County now, taking the steel.
I think they're slowly turning it back over to them.
There's something on the news, they're in the process of.
Yeah.
The cases we have, do we have the 2 individuals in Swain County, or do we have,
No, they're over in Cherokee County.
but we're just responsible for those
Yeah.
cases?
And they've given some to Graham and some to Macon. But at this point, we're saying we can't take anything extra. I mean, we've just had those and keep working them, so.
Well, we'll get to turn them back over pretty soon, hopefully.
Yeah.
But that still ain't gonna help us with their problem, because the other counties, all of them have the same problem.
Yep. But we're gonna basically, I mean, if anybody asks, we can't take on any more cases. Our social workers, the normal caseload is like 10, and the ones we've got over now is closer to 20. So it's just a bad situation. So if you do seriously know anybody that needs a job, we can get, and has a 4-year degree, we can get them into working. They can do their 72-hour training, and we can put them to work as a social worker. And this is not just CPS. We've got an adult, we've got foster care, and we've got CPS. So it's not just, child protective services. We've got in-home services, which is not as, I guess, it is same, you're dealing with the same clientele, but it's not as taxing because you're not actually enforcement, piece.
But it can be any bachelor's degree, correct?
Correct.
See, stuff like that don't make any sense at all to me whatsoever. Why do you have a mandate that they have to have a bachelor's degree if it's not a specified bachelor's degree
That's a state mandate.
for a job?
Yeah.
Because they could have a bachelor's degree in art.
They could. Yeah. All
kinds of different studies that has nothing to do with this specified job.
Yep.
Would this fall in some of the state mandate categories that we could fight as counties together? Because associate's degrees, which has government jobs been stepping away from associate's degrees altogether, mandating that you have to have or is there
Most of them are bachelor,
requirements?
well, in the human services field, most of them are bachelors. And then you have some master, you know, your human services director has to have a master's, your health director has to have a master's, that sort of thing, so, but there's only 3 jobs that require masters within county government. A lot of DSS, a lot of health department, of course, nurses. If you're a nurse, you have to be a registered nurse, which is probably considered a master's, I guess. Really, though, those are the ones. You know, the environmental health specialist is, of course, bachelor's.
But they have to have it specifically to their thing, don't they?
Well, it's kind of like it, but normally they get either like a biology or maybe like a health-related field, and then they get the certification or pass the licensure, you know, for environmental health. Same thing with social workers. They get that 4-year degree, and the reason it could be in anything is just because they got to pass that 72 hours worth of training.
But if you
Which
could
makes
pass
them-
that and get certified,
You're a social worker,
that don't,
so it's just the way it is. I guess it goes in, you know, and I can't remember the terminology, but if you got a 4-year degree at a college and you wanted to be a teacher, but you didn't have a teaching certificate, you can, what they call, I think it's lateral entry. I think that's the name of it.
I think that's what.
Yeah, lateral entry, where you can go and take like a couple classes, and then all of a sudden now you're a teacher. So you don't have to go through all the education piece of it. It's more of the back doorway, I guess, you're getting in. Same exact thing. It's basically a lateral entry for DSS. So, anyway, if you know anybody, let me know. We're racking our brain. So I think that's it. That's all I got.
Okay.
I got one question somebody had me ask. Kurt was in mapping and he retired. Was he replaced with anybody?
He was never in mapping.
He wasn't, he just helped with it.
He did.
Somebody asked me who took his place in
Yeah.
mapping, and I said, I don't know, I'll ask.
He did the back end stuff, the computer stuff, because he was technically just a computer technician. But he did
So-
some of the software stuff.
The mapping department's still the same mapping department, okay.
Correct. You know, at some point, I'd love to get a GIS coordinator position to where you can do mapping layers. Ruth Ann Sitton is the mapper. She does like splits and transfers and things with the tax office, and she can do some maps, but she doesn't do a lot of layering. Meaning, like, if you wanted to know where all the sewer taps are, whatever, she couldn't go out and say, okay, I'll just draw it on the map. She don't have that, I guess, that expertise. So, but no, Kurt was never the mapper.
Well, he was missed, because in mapping, he was very good.
He did dabble in it.
Well,
He did.
this person said Kurt was the only one that could really produce the maps that he needed.
Oh, you,
Well, it's for Brock.
Leonard. Yeah,
You know.
Leonard asked me about it.
Yeah, Leonard,
Yeah.
he said Kurt was very helpful.
He was very good,
Yeah,
very good at it.
I was thinking he doesn't work any part-time.
He does some
Still does,
part-time
but
work for us
mostly
with our website, which we're trying to get upgraded. We're trying to use a separate company to do the website, because it's we have to totally redo it. I can add that to my list, hang on. So website design.
There you go.
We're trying to get, a little bit more advanced with some of our technology, and the website has been lacking. It was done in 2010, and before that, I did it in 1997, so it was really old. But in Dreamweaver was the technology that they used in 2010. Well, that has gone away like in 2012, and so we've been kind of just hanging on using our old software. But the new version is WordPress. That's the new big thing. We see these nice websites and that sort of thing. That's what they are created in. But with that, Liquid Spark, Julie Thorner, had presented a proposal to us to redo a website. And so she's working with us, and I put Lisa Brown, one of our employees in this building, she's gonna be kind of over it, you know, getting all the information. But we have about 300 website pages on our website right now. And we're gonna consolidate those down where it's better, where it's easier for people to find the information. Because at the end of the day, that's what it's about. And then we also want to do functionality, like, we want to be like other counties where if somebody wants to pay their taxes online, you should be able to go to your tax bill, hit pay, and it's paid. You can do it with a credit card or whatever. Same thing with any fees that we do. The taxpayer should be able to hit it online without even having to go in our office. And that's what we really want to get to. So we're working through, we're seeing what's best practices in other counties around us. A lot of them have those functions, so we're kind of going to mimic that and go that route. But we do need experts. We need consultants that's going to actually develop the site. So, and that'll be happening this fall.
The people who are late on their taxes, that list came out today in the paper. I don't know if anybody saw it. It just needs to be keeping on, because they looked like they had 2 pages, 4 lines each. Take that back. 4 pages, 2 lines each page. So, if you know anybody owes us money, you better start talking to them. Okay. Commissioners got your reports. You begin us, please.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, since our last meeting on May 13th, of course, we had on Tuesday, May 18th, we had the budget work session and the special session. On Thursday, May 20th at 6 o'clock, we had a Foursquare meeting. We had it by Zoom. That was during that gas shortage, I guess, if you want to call it that. And so we ended up having that by Zoom because just wasn't sure about where they could drive to Andrews from the different areas. Ended up being not enough for a quorum, so that meeting was a bust. Then on Monday, May 24th, this past Monday, at 5 o'clock, had the Southwest Rural Planning Organization meeting, and that was followed at 7 o'clock by the Southwest Commission meeting, and those were held this time in the Oak Room at the casino. Don't know if they're going to, it's open right now, I think, to where the meetings are going to be held, but that's where they were held this past time. So that's all I had, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Mr. Parsons, how did that meeting go? Was it a lot discussed? Or?
There is, and I probably, didn't bring any of that paperwork with me. Those meetings are very informative, and sometimes they are, you have to really pay attention to keep up with them, I think. You know, there's a lot going on, and there's a lot of, they talk a lot about money and budgets and projects, and even when something is okay for a project and you think, okay, this will get done, that may mean it's going to be done 10 years down the road. It's very interesting how it all works out. And then the economic development meeting, they had at least one thing that stood out, a presentation from Mountain Maid or Western Mountain Maid. I'd have to find that again. Trying to group together a lot of local made and stuff that's made in the mountains, and they're going to kind of come up with what am I trying to words? I'm trying to look for. I'm sorry. You know, Western made or mountain made too, and everybody work under that, and then it's like an advertising type of thing that we promote the Western Mountains, and that can be outdoor activities. It could be outdoor made furniture, boats, kayaks, bikes,
Kind of
just
like a heritage umbrella that covers
type of
everything.
thing. I'll have to, I might should have brought that, and maybe next time I'll try to remember to always bring that stuff after the meeting, because sometimes it's hard off the top of my head to give you a lot of that without taking any notes.
I wasn't trying to put you on the spot, or nothing, but we were talking about that. Who was it asked about if we had a commission or something? And
Kevin, Mr. Siegel.
was it Mr. Siegel asked about, which he's not here, so.
Well, we told him last week, I believe, about the meeting coming up yet.
Did he go or try to? He didn't.
Mayor Sutton was there,
Was he?
myself, yeah.
Is that through Mountain West Partnership? Is that who, you said economic development, is that the same people that's wanting to do
It's
this
not
mountain
exactly
made?
the same. Yes, I think it's partly or connected, but I'll have to get more information and probably get it to Kevin to get out to everybody.
Well, I was gonna see if, I was gonna try to go to this meeting, but I know they still have some things that you have to do to go, like mask mandates and stuff, didn't they? Did they not? Because in the email, it said you'd have to wear your mask to go
I think that was before the governor came out. with
before he
it.
released it,
That's
so,
all been,
well, then I should've went on, that's the reason I didn't go, but I think another one of us might need to start going to some of these meetings too with Mr. Park, because you're on the road part too, ain't you?
yes,
Yeah.
and that's the
That's-
RPA,
So-
the Rural Planning Organization. And that meets at, well, like this meeting, it meets at 5, and then the other meeting meets at 7, or goes at 7.
Cause that's where you get so much information from that one meeting, and then you go to another and. you
So
get a whole bunch
everybody
more.
here,
Can get-
every commissioner, every town alderman, every mayor has a board seat on that board. So if you wanna go, you can, I mean, you're a voting member. And then the only other people that go are like county staff, but most definitely you have a voice.
I know that Mr. Siegel had said something about like we didn't know what commission or something, but I went to one before. And it was very informative on certain things. I was hoping that he'd got the chance to go to. And maybe every now and then, some of us pop in too, and then you don't just have one of us there trying to soak up all the information. Maybe one of us,
Well, and I like that suggestion, and I think we will take it, and if you want to volunteer to be the person, at least for the next meeting, we'll accept that as well.
I would like to go to, but
And if I may, the Rural Planning Board, you can go as a guest, but you cannot be a voting member till you go. There's processes of
Yeah.
I'm sorry, which one was that?
the Rural Planning Organization, RPO,
So-
Southwest RPO.
So TAC or TCC, the Transportation something council.
Advisory, maybe advisory committee or.
Yeah, so the RPO is in two different sections. I'm on one of the boards, I think it's the TCC, and you're on the TAC, which is the Transportation Advisory Council.
Council.
And then the TCC is mostly planners, county managers, and economic developers. And they kind of get together to kind of go through the projects and then recommend it to the TAC, what their thoughts are on it. And then the TAC ultimately has the authority to pass it to the full board at the Southwestern Commission. So that's kind of they kind of get the staff thoughts, and then the commissioners that are appointed by each county and municipalities. And then that goes on to the full board for approval of it. That's kind of the way they line that RPO up, which is the Rural Planning Organization.
It's elected officials from all over the counties. It's mayors, commissioners. I think we even have representatives from Lake Santilla in Graham County. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
yeah, all of them,
have-
everybody.
You
Anybody
have
that's-
these different, so it's, I'm not sure how many people were there, but
Is that why DOT can't get anything done? Is that all these elected officials? Okay. That was not a cut.
oh, that's fine. it seems like politicians do like to hear themselves talk.
I'm gonna try to go to the next one. I'll try to get up, if you can remind me.
Sure.
Mr.
Well,
Parsons.
it'll be, I will remind you, I will. It's every other month, so this one was 24th, and I think, so the one coming up in
Should be their annual meeting,
the July, but that may be an annual meeting, that's not a business meeting. That's
probably
usually
an
just a
annual,
luncheon.
usually in July is the annual.
Yeah.
That may have been what I went to before, the annual meeting. Was it not?
No, it was,
The
You went
annual
over
meeting,
to
I don't think
Franklin.
they're conducting business, they're just,
Yeah.
want to get together.
that's when usually you have the state legislators there and a lot of, I think the congressmen come, it's more of a banquet, I guess.
So, Mr. Partner, yeah, so if this one was May, won't have one in June, July would be the annual, I guess they'll skip August, it may be September 27th before the
September.
next business meeting.
Thank you.
You wanna move into your report?
I don't have much to report. I hate I missed the last meeting because I did want to discuss the budget stuff, but I had some personal issues come up and I had to take care of them. So I didn't, so that's sort of why I guess I was sort of in debate mode now with the budget, because I mean, there were a few things I wanted to talk about with it. It's been presented, so we'll just move on.
Sure.
I do want to try to go to a few more organizational meetings if I have a chance. Have you had any more talk with the North Carolina County Commissioners Organization? I saw an email.
I go through their emails, and have I had a discussion with them? The answer to that is no, I
No.
have not. I've just been reading all of their materials.
But I think, like Mr. Siegel was asking, I think sometimes we just don't realize what we got going on. Like I did know Mr. Parsons was on that. And I'm gonna try to go some more. That's
The,
about it.
The annual conference is gonna be on August 14th, and it's in New Hanover County. So if y'all would like to go to New Hanover County on the 14th of August, and Lex will be, I think, one day before, that's on a Saturday, the 14th, so I think it's like maybe Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, it's like 3 or 4 days. If y'all would like to go, let me know, and I can sign you up for that.
Well, if we go, they're gonna know we haven't been there all year, but if we go, would that add support to these guys? I mean, just us being there.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually a voting, usually they ask for one voting delegate. Now New Hanover County is, of course, on the coast, but, it's pretty far away, but, even when we have gone closer, every once in a while I've done the voting delegate. Commissioner y'all can have one person to go and vote on behalf of Swain County. Everybody gets one vote in their conference, so. Anyway, if anybody wants to go, I won't be able to go this year, unfortunately.
If somebody could, the reason I want to start going to a few more of these meetings is because sometimes I think we were asked earlier in the year about like what things we want the legislature to do. And one thing was I'd like to get to know some of these other counties, like if there's mandates that they're having troubles with that hurts them, we need to get together before the next legislative session to get some of these, maybe work together a little more with some of these other counties, because that seems to be how you get some things heard.
Now, one thing I would suggest, the annual conference is normally not for those types of things. They have like some seminars, they have training sessions, they have, I think they've got a lobby full of stuff, like free stuff, like vendors, more like a conference. What you're talking about is like the Legislative Goals Conference, which is separate during the year. So there's one, it's usually in the month of January, but before that, they have different committees. So if anybody wants to be on a committee, and there's committees, there's finance, there's human services, there's justice, there's I think one of public safety. There's several of them. You can look online on ncacc.org and go down through there, and you pull down which one you want, and they'll put you on it. I'm on the human services and the finance. I participate by Zoom, but you know, you can definitely go. I think they're going to be opening it back up to online. I mean, to in face, in person. I mean,
Leonard's organization. Am I correct?
Who's now?
Leonard. Oh, I can't think of his first name. Somebody Leonard.
Oh, Kevin Leonard.
Kevin.
It's Kevin Leonard.
I don't know why I can't think of Kevin.
He's-
We've got Kevin here and here.
Yeah, he's the director.
Right.
And then, but any of y'all want to participate in those committees, that'd be great. And if you want a district office, we've just never had anybody that, so like Connie Orr, over in Graham County is the district officer for our region. So
Connie Orr is the district.
she's a district representative of the NCACC.
Right.
And so if we ever have any issues like that need to be addressed with NCACC, we go to her. But now, they're all the time, the resources of NCACC, I mean, I bet there's not a week goes by that I've not reached out to one of them. Because, especially during session, if there's bills coming up or whatever, Paige Worsham, she's the general counsel for them. And I mean, I've got her cell phone number, I'll pick up a phone and call her because they're all the time dabbling in different issues that we have and that we, continually, especially during bill session,
Right.
We're trying to stay on top of it, where we can bring it in here if there's an issue.
We jumped from one committee to another committee, so that's
Yeah.
what I wanted to say. So if anybody's listening,
Yeah.
they'll know what
Yeah.
happened.
So Rogers, he's on, it's a Southwestern Commission, is the local COG or Council of Governments, and that's both municipalities and commissioners can be involved in that organization.
And that's
Then
for the
you-
western region.
That's for the the 7 western counties. only. Haywood West, yeah. Then you have the second one, which I was talking about with Kevin Leonard as the director, is the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners, NCACC. And that is a statewide organization which only commissioners and counties can be a part of. And then the other organization at the state level is League of Municipalities, which only cities can be a part of. But from our circumstance, it's NCACC is our association.
But we don't have to pay dues to be in the Southwestern.
Oh, yeah,
We do pay dues.
yeah.
And we have to pay
You
dues
pay
to be in
$11,000 a year.
We
And
do.
And for the
Mhm.
NCACC is,
For the NCACC, I think it's on like 2,500.
25, 27, something.
It's-
Listed in that, what our subscription is.
Yeah, I think it's like 2,700.
So
something
we
like that.
already pay for
Yeah,
this.
you have to pay to be a part of these things.
but have we paid and not attended? Is that the
That's what
question?
I'm questioning.
Yeah,
We pay, so
so
we're
you
part of
pay
it.
either whether you attend or
Whether
not.
you did or not, okay.
I mean, it's kind of like you pay for the institute of government too. So the institute of government is the educational arm of county or governments in general. And so we have to pay a fee to them each year to be able to participate in their programming. So,
But Southwest Commission, we can see a direct result benefit back to the,
Yeah.
that $11,000 brings a lot of money back into this county.
yeah.
It's a little harder to see the benefit from the
The
bigger
other ones.
picture.
But it's not much
But it is,
either.
yeah, it's
not as much as the
But that
Southwest.
Southwest Commission sounds like a lot, but man, they pump a lot of money comes through that
Yeah.
to Western North Carolina.
Yeah, they do a lot of stuff which you may or may not know. All of the CDBG or Community Development Block Grant funds are sent through sent through Southwestern and then back to the county. So they're the administrator for it. And then the Home and Community Care Block Grant also flows through them. And then also the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council money all flows through them. So, I mean, there's a lot of benefits that we get.
Broadband grants.
Yeah, the broadband, they have a lot of resources as
Yeah.
far as the planning part. So,
That's it.
Danny?
We had a broadband meeting, we were talking about that, and, part of the discussion was, the $50,000 the county gave them to that, trying to figure out what to do with that. And some discussion was, trying to use it some for families in Swain County that couldn't afford to subsidize broadband, but there's already programs out there for that. So their kind of idea was to hang on to that money, because some of these grants coming up are gonna have to have matching funds, that we're applying for. So right now, they decided not to move on that, because there's a, the emergency broadband bill that's out there for people that are, like kids on free lunch programs and that, their families can get subsidized broadband until the money runs out. There's a pile of money in that until it runs out, and there's problems with that, because like Leonard explained, some of these people, like when they get hooked up with Frontier or whoever, you've got to do a contract. So some of this stuff is good, but some of it is
If you
almost
have
like
the-
they haven't thought through it.
Yeah, if you have the providers, it works well. If
It
you
does,
don't-
and I was just looking, one of the emails that got sent through Julie was, and the governor, I guess, he's announced a proposal called the Federal Recovery Plans for the state, just for broadband, and it's broken out in different parts. It's $1.2 billion. There's tons of money out there right now for broadband and infrastructure on it, but again, you've got to have providers that can, wanting to implement it. We have, one of the situations in our county right now is I didn't realize until this past meeting, Charter Spectrum has purchased, in other words, they have a mapped section of Swain County that they've got monies to service. They're not here doing it, but they have a timeline. They could have up to 6 years before they ever come in to do that. So a lot of this stuff is just, it's like everything else. It looks good on paper, but when you start implementing it, and therefore now there's an area of our county that's mapped out that says, okay, we can't go get a grant for it because somebody's already got one for it. So that part of the county could be 6 years out before that company ever comes in and does anything. And part of the discussion we've been having is James is picking up a lot of customers. He's doing well. He's the only one really we have that's reaching out and doing anything. And he's getting grants and he's working, but wireless internet is, in Leonard's word, it's kind of a Band-Aid for broadband. It's a minimal, will get you by. What we really got to push for and try to do is fiber to the home is the only way we're ever going to have substantial broadband in any county. And that's difficult to do in this, but that's one of the things. Right now, there's monies available. Leonard, I think, was going to meet with Baltzan West and try to get a conversation going. And you can run that in the ground or you can run it aerially. We have electrical lines going to every home in Swain County. And some counties where they have electrical co-ops, the co-ops are getting in the broadband business and doing it because it's enhancing their business. Of course, Duke's not, they're not into that business, but I think the potential's there if we could get a contractor in here and somebody interested with the kind of money that's around now. It would certainly be beneficial to try to get that fiber into but there's so many players in this and so many that aren't interested in small counties. It all just kind of, it's frustrating to say the least. It's just like everything else.
Let me just ask, because I don't know, but we are basically searching for last mile, not anything in between. And therein lies part of our problem. What about your committee or your nonprofit? Can they go for this money and do some of this stuff?
No, not as a provider. They're not a provider, see. I don't, they're trying to get some legislation changed to where a lot of the grants now out there, in order to get the big grants, has to be a licensed provider. See, like James is not licensed, but they're trying to get some of that changed to where these providers could go, to where somebody like James could get in and start doing fiber. And I guess he could, but a lot of that would be on his own. He'd have a hard time getting the grant money for it, like the big licensed providers, but they're not moving here.
And with James, what kind of money are we talking about?
Oh,
And I'm thinking
Yeah.
of $50,000 that we just made available.
oh, that's, I mean, when you're
Yeah.
talking about last mile fiber, you're talking about millions of dollars,
Yeah, it's,
multi-millions of dollars. But there's that kind of money out there right now, in the federal level and the state level. Some of it, like in the state legislation, don't been passed yet, but the bill's up there. They think it'll pass. There'll probably be revision once this side gets what they want, and that side, some of it'll go through, but it's amazing the things we're getting of the money that's starting to be
Could
available.
your nonprofit look at a grant that would allow them to go out and seduce a provider to come in here?
Sure, that's what we do. We're in conversation with, like I say, there's a conversation with Baltimore West, going to see, you've got to get the kind of provider that would be interested in the area to work with. There's certain grants we can go with, but generally the provider has to apply for the grant, you see. We can encourage them to and can help them. We had looked at one time, one of the problems here is we don't have an engineering study to really tell what the cost of what it would look like. Just to do a study, and theirs wasn't, it was still for just wireless. It wasn't even for fiber. It was asking about $80,000 just to do a study.
Just to do this.
We already have the wireless, so why, do the study for it? But it's all, I don't know. If we can't get anything done in the next couple of years with this kind of money that's out there, I think we're gonna be in trouble. And they're working hard to try, and some of it's gonna take, legislation change. And there's a big push from other counties, especially rural counties, to where the county can get involved and basically be a provider.
Yeah.
And until that happens, I'm not sure if small counties are ever gonna have a leg to stand on.
I think in our situation, we have a lot of, so you have to be a licensed telco to be able to do some of that stuff. Now, we've deployed fiber both underground and we have aerial. And we have to pay, per pole to Duke Energy. I think it's $11.65 a year per pole that you rent that space from them each year. But we run fiber from sanitation down to the business center aerially using Zito Media. Well, it's our fiber, but it's part of their bundle. So we actually paid for it. We paid $12,000 to get it down there. So between there and there, I know it costs $12,000 fiber. But the same thing, we've got all this fiber. DukeNet, which was a Duke Enterprise at one point, they have fiber going by every building that you can think of, everywhere. And they sold it to CenturyLink. Well, CenturyLink don't want to come in the area. So all this dark fiber is like hanging everywhere. And if you could just get that piece, that's the thing that's so frustrating, is that we've got all this stuff hanging here.
Leonard has all that knowledge and knows where it's at, and it's frustrating that you can't get anybody to come
Exactly.
and listen to you and talk to you about trying to deploy it and to get it in, you've got it there, why aren't you doing something with it? And those companies having that little stronghold in different places causes other providers not to be able to get money for it, because the government looks at it and says, well, you've got fiber there, but it's not deployed to the homes. It's just like them having a certain map of county, and I don't know where Charter Spectrum's, Leonard's trying to get some of the mapping to try to define more of the area that they have, but in other words, we've got to know, because if we apply for a grant and that's in their area that they say they're gonna cover, and it's in what we're trying to apply for, we won't get that grant, because they're gonna shoot it down and say that area's already covered by somebody. You can't get money for that area. And that's the way the grants run. You've gotta set an area that shows it's underserved, it's not served, and how you can improve it. And, you know, even the megabits, the state, that they're saying they want everybody up to 100. And I mean, what, most of us are down
25.
about 7 to
Yeah.
25, yeah.
25 is considered high-speed broadband,
Yeah.
and they're wanting, if
They're
we're wanting
wanting
100,
to, yeah,
it's astronomical. That is
the
fiber.
ideal thing over this country is to get everybody up to 100 meg speed. So you can see how far behind things are and how much work's gotta go on. And that committee's working hard. They've got a lot of going. Like I say, kudos to Leonard. That man doesn't, he sleeps with this stuff.
Did Leonard not, about a year ago, try to get a, meeting with,
With Boston, he's had
Boston.
different meetings. They have a new, the lady that was there,
Terry resigned.
Terry resigned, and
Now it's Mark Swanger.
yeah.
I think Mark Swanger. I
Well,
believe.
the guy that was here before that moved out west has come back.
Oh, is he? Oh,
What's his name? We had a meeting with him when I first came on. When we had those providers, he was with them then, and I think moved out. I can't think of his name.
yeah.
Used to be
Not
with
Jim
NOC, I
Campbell.
believe. I can't think of the name, but he's back, I think, took her position. So, but he said had called and tried to set up a meeting with him. And you got, you know, the tribe talks about getting into broadband more, but, you know, I don't know. It's frustrating with the kind of money that's out there that you can't get more movement on it, you know. But that's about all I had.
isn't the tribe in, Balsam, weren't they partnering there for a while?
Yeah, they've got several, so they've got Balsam West, and then they have, let's see, they've got they've got a company over in Macon County that does wireless, but their major focus from a business perspective was always the middle mile. It never was the last
No,
mile. They just thought, you know, it was really a combination between Southwestern Community College, Drake, and the tribe went together and created, you know, Boston West originally, which we were right there. I mean, we helped, we developed this downtown area because we put in all the fiber here. So we were in broadband until the state took us out of it in 2009. But before that, we were in it, and so it was a good partnership, and I think they served the purpose. But it just, at the end of the day, that ISP or internet service provider, they don't want to do that last mile because of the density. There's no return on investment. You put all this infrastructure on the ground, and then if people don't sign up because your price point's too high or whatever, then they're kind of sunk with their stuff. But right now, the perfect opportunity, like Danny said, I mean, there's all this money out there to do
Where they don't have to worry
that
about
part.
it, to me, and it's like nobody's, you know, the frustration is it doesn't seem like they're interested in that,
Right.
even though the money's there.
Yeah.
To be able to have to get out and do that,
But it sounds to me
Last mile.
like that's another issue along with, something Kenneth brought up that needs to be addressed at the state legislature.
yeah, and I think it has.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, it's been a hot topic with the state, county commissioners association. It's just,
Yeah. Well, and there's a couple bills out there right now that made crossover. One was Senator Corbin's bill that has made it over. So there is talk about that new piece will allow counties and cities to get more involved.
What can we do as a board to support that kind of?
We'll definitely call, you know, Representative Clampett and Senator Corbin. And I think they would be very receptive to those types of calls, because I think that, you know, more we get involved. But I do think that the state understands it, and it goes back to when all this happened, before, when the telcos had lobbyists and they were basically lobbied against counties and cities, mostly cities, because the lawsuit actually was a city, it was the city of Salisbury, had gotten too involved with deployment of broadband and of fiber, and they encroached on an area that had a telco, and that telco sued them, and then the state legislature got involved and said stripped all the authority away from county governments, because they thought that city and county government, they thought that cities and counties had an unfair advantage in the marketplace because they were considered technically a nonprofit governmental organization that wrote laws that could affect the businesses. So that was the deal. It actually had a legitimate claim, the telco at that point, but they've just taken it to an extreme where you can't do anything. You know, if you could work with a provider. But back then, like the city of Morganton ran a cable company and wireless, with internet for years. And I think they're still doing like cable. I think they were grandfathered in, but there's a lot of cities and counties throughout North Carolina that did that.
Had their own cable
Yeah.
companies,
Yeah, they were big in that down east.
I think it'd be good, sometime I can check with Leonard to have him come in and talk to us if you got questions. He's much better to answer those.
Oh,
I
well,
am,
that's fine, yeah, we can, anytime he wants to come in and you can invite him in. You know our calendar pretty much, so I think get him in and let him tell us about some of the stuff that's going on and some of the steps we may be able to take to influence legislation if we can. So I think that would be good. And speaking of that, I had a good conversation with Casey Cooper. He's the CEO of the EBCI Hospital Association. And they're still pushing, Dale Wiggins is pushing as well on the insurance.
Medicaid
Medicaid.
expansion.
Thank you. He is calling on us as the board to pass a resolution that helps support what they're trying to do. C4C, I think, is trying to pull everybody together, and the resolution seems to be the way that they want to go. But Casey Cooper volunteered to come in and talk to us and answer any questions that we may have. And it's become political. But when you mentioned Senator Corbin a moment ago, that was what I was thinking about. We can talk to him and see how we can support, and maybe more resolutions from us, just simply saying that as county commissioners, we see the benefit of some of this stuff. So we have done that. So I think we need to, I need to, and so thus I imagine you need to be able to answer some of the questions that come from the public. You know, what are you doing here, and what are you doing here, and this kind of thing. So I think that that's one of the things that we need to report, and that's why I think the reports are so important here, because the people listen or they watch and they gather some information that they don't have and aren't privy to a lot of times. So I appreciate you guys doing what you do and your interest that makes you want to do more, but I think we need to get back out there now that COVID is over and make ourselves seen and known, bring back information. And I had another thing that I wanted to talk about, and I can't find my notes on. So, otherwise, okay, anything else? I guess we don't have anybody here that wants to make a statement, so. Any other discussion anyone has for informal
I
discussion?
had somebody ask about, this was a request from a citizen, wanted to know why we didn't take care of all the cemeteries in the county, so that Graham County did. I said, well, I will mention that. They said in Graham County that the county takes care of them. And this person suggests if we could just mow them twice a year. I said, well, man, there's a lot of cemeteries in this county. And I said, you'd be bad. I mean, you'd have to take care of all of them. You'll have some of these little ones up on the mountain, maybe one or two people buried. You're gonna, I mean, if you do one, you gotta do them all. I didn't really see, but I said I'd bring it up, just food for thought, so
So
that was there.
I will let you know, just we can pass this along. So Graham County has special legislation, state legislation, that a portion of their sales tax be withheld to pay for mowing of cemeteries. So where we get our Article 39, Graham County only gets a portion of theirs because of, I think a third of it has to be used for keeping up the cemeteries.
So that's why the county does. She said the county did all their cemeteries and wanna know why we couldn't. I said,
It's,
I'd never heard that. I said, well, I'll find out.
Lots,
costs them $400,000 a year.
I figured it wasn't cheap.
most of our cemeteries are on private land, are they not?
Yeah.
The Lueda Cemetery, which it's by association,
Right.
owns it too, don't they?
Well, I told her we'd helped, you know, especially with that one.
Mhm.
Time we had given more money for that, but when you get to counting, it's kind of like churches. There's a lot in this community. There's a lot of cemeteries in Swain County.
Lots of them are at churches, some of them are, some of them, even funeral home people own rights to certain
I think the biggest
cemeteries.
majority of the cemeteries in the county are taken care of by people, but she was talking about a lot of, some of the older cemeteries, people died off and there's nobody really around taking care of them.
Lots of it's like it's community, the disappearance of the community, efforts to take care of things, which that brings me to something, I know we was about to leave. I did talk to some other people about some more community watch stuff. Well, that's what I directed them to. They were worried about all kinds of things in their communities, but I do think that we need to, if we can somehow, check in on some of these community watches and stuff that's where the communities are trying to get back together in certain areas. I think we need to check in, maybe stop by. What all community buildings do we have? I know we have the Kirkland's Creek. They have their own community building. Alarka.
Whittier.
So I know in certain communities they don't necessarily have a gathering place or nothing, but I just referred this lady and these other people I talked to, I referred them to Gunner. Again, I talked to Gunner about it, and he said, keep referring. He'll help them out as best he can, because he took up the Kirkland's Creek area, and he said they were really doing good.
Oh, really?
I'm pretty sure, I talked to him about it, he said he thought it was really doing good.
Good.
And that's what back to the cemetery, it's all part of the community. Used to, community's done it all. And then we got to help whatever we can to build our community back.
And if I am not mistaken, and I will just say that first, the Community Watch program generally goes through the sheriff's office. Am I correct?
Correct.
So I think you can encourage Gunner to talk with the sheriff's office and let him get the resources and then go out to the communities to distribute them. I think that would make the communities a little more receptive to it. So that would just be a suggestion. Okay, anything else? Okay, I'm open to a motion to adjourn,
I'll make that motion.
and I'm open to a second.
Second.
All of those in favor, raise your right hand, and we'll pass it unanimously with those in attendance. Thank you, guys.
Oh. Roger is looking for me.
Go ahead. Go ahead and get started.
Go ahead. Do you think that Southwestern Commission is a good place to start getting more connections and maybe getting,
No, yeah, there's lots of people there. It's the simple answer is yes.
especially with neighboring counties?
And you meet, and you can, it's kind of, you can kind of meet and network, like there was Cherokee County has a brand-new commissioner, and, she was there. And I really didn't get a chance to speak to her, although I was introduced to her, but, or she was introduced to the group, but,
Okay.
I think they talked some about the broadband issue.